Question for you. Are you trying to change some of your behaviors and you're just worn out from trying over and over and over to change them and nothing's happening? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Another way to go about modifying your behaviors. So I just want to ask you, see if any of these fit with you or resonate with you. You've been trying to change your behavior. You've been trying to make some changes in your life. And you've tried any or all of these. I'm just going to read a list here right to my left. You've tried a morning routine. You've tried an evening routine. You try to do your most difficult thing first in the morning. You've listened to and read a ton of personal growth and personal development type material and tried to implement everything that you're learning. And after a while, the list becomes so long, it's exhausting just to keep track of the list of all the things that you're supposed to be doing in your life to modify your behavior. You've tried block scheduling your day. You've tried prioritizing your task. You've tried repeating sayings and mantras over and over and over throughout the day in your head. You come up with a to-do list, and then also now the thing to do is come up with a not to-do list. So you have both of those lists that you're working off of. You just use the old-fashioned approach. You try to get up the motivation and the energy and the determination and psych yourself up every stinking day to try to go out and do the things that you say you want to do and not do the things that you say you don't want to do. And it may work for a short period of time, but after a while you're just exhausted from the amount of energy and the amount of motivation and trying to psych yourself up that it requires of you day after day after day. Such things as quitting smoking, drinking, stopping drugs, changing your shopping habits, managing your money better, changing your eating habits, maybe trying to work out, cleaning up your language, whatever it is, cleaning up or stop wasting so much time watching TV or just piddling around doing really useless stuff because you're procrastinating doing what it is that you know you should be doing. I don't know if you've ever found yourself in this situation where you just want to throw up your hands and say, it's not even worth trying because I'm getting nowhere with changing my behavior. If that's you, I can relate. I've been there. And what I want to talk about today is something that I've learned that I think has been a benefit to me. I found it very beneficial in my life. Maybe it'll help you. And what I call it is, so all those things that we've been talking about up to this point have simply been what I would classify as behavior modification. We're focusing 100% on changing our behavior, modifying, can't talk, stretch my lips, modifying our behaviors. What I want to focus on is another approach to this, which is called character transformation. That's my term for it. Character transformation. And so just let me compare these real quick. So behavior modification is you are trying to get yourself to do stuff that your deepest part of you doesn't want to really do. And you're trying to get yourself to stop doing stuff that your deepest part of you really wants to do. Whereas character transformation is becoming the type of person who naturally, easily, and routinely does the type of things that you say you want to do and doesn't do the type of things that you say you don't want to do. Behavior modification, you can see this a lot by to-do list or the new thing, which is not to-do list. People have a to-do list today. In other words, these are the things I'm supposed to be doing to make sure my behavior gets modified. And these are the things I need to stop doing to modify my behavior. There's a list of things. We may have it written down. We may have it in our heads. We may repeat it back to ourselves. Whatever it is, we have a list of what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. Whereas in character transformation, you are doing what you say you want to do and not doing what you say you don't want to do without even thinking about it. Because character transformation is about being the type of person who does what you say you want to do and doesn't do the things you say you want to stop doing. Okay? Behavior modification requires a ton of motivation and self-determination and psyching yourself up, and it requires an expenditure of so much energy, right? So much energy you have to put into changing your behavior day after day after day after day after day. Whereas character transformation, as your character changes, the stuff that you want to do just happens, and the stuff that you don't want to do just doesn't happen. So that's where I would like us to get to. And what I want to talk about is, I have found over the years, as I've tried the behavior modification approach, and after being exhausted by trying it for years, I started looking for something different because it wasn't working. It was driving me nuts, trying to modify my behavior. Behavior modification was making me exhausted from all the energy I had to expend and all the mental power I had to expend to prevent myself from doing things and force myself to do other things. And I came upon character transformation. What if I just worked on changing who Brad is, and then as I work on changing who Brad is, that will indirectly impact my behaviors. So this is what I call it, the indirect approach of changing your behaviors. You don't go right after your behaviors. That would be directly going after your behaviors and focusing on those. No, don't focus on that. Try this. Focus your time and energy that you were spending on behavior modification into transforming your character. And if you're going to transform your character, you probably need a way to do that. So I'm going to share with you a 4-step process that I have learned over time to transform my character. And I continue to use this over and over and over to continue to transform my character more and more. This is something I wish I would have had someone to show me and guide me down this path years and years, actually decades ago, when I first started down this path, but I didn't. So I had to figure this out on my own. And what happened was I spent a lot of time going forward and then backwards some more, and then forwards, and then sideways, and then up, and then down, and then round and round in circles, trying to figure all this out. Where if I'd had someone that would have said, hey, Brad, let me show you how this works, and explained character transformation to me versus behavior modification, and then showed me the process of seeing your character, seeing who Brad is transformed into the person that I know I can and should be, man, that would have been such a help. And that's what I'm hoping to provide you with here. So I'm going to go through these steps with you. Step number 1 is you have to find a reliable source of knowledge. What do I mean by that? Because that's a nice phrase. What does that mean? You have to find a reliable source of knowledge that will accurately explain to you reality, what the true reality is in this world that we live in. Not what you would like that reality to be, or what you hope that reality to be, or what that reality is that makes you feel good. But you've got to find a reliable source of knowledge that accurately reflects and helps you to understand true reality. And I say, how are you going to know 100% that you've got that reliable source of knowledge? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the answer is you won't. Not in step 1. But we're going to try to figure that out. So what you have to do is find a reliable source of knowledge that you can feel very confident about that it's reliable, and then go from there. Okay? Step number 2 is you have to make a decision, or you have to willingly decide to trust that that reliable source of knowledge that you've picked is accurate. And I know what you're saying. You're going, Brad, wait a minute. Didn't we just do that in step 1? No, is the answer. You did not. And let me explain the difference. In step 1, you spent time researching and investigating to find what you consider to be a reliable source of knowledge. But that's all up here in your head. That's as far as it's gotten. It's just in your head. Easy. Hasn't changed your life, hasn't impacted your life, hasn't made anything happen in your life except that now maybe you're thinking this might be a reliable source of knowledge. Making the decision or deciding to trust that that is a reliable source of knowledge now is going to impact your life. And this is how it's going to impact your life, because now you're making the decision that I'm going to rearrange my life to live and act like that reliable source of knowledge is accurate, as if that reliable source of knowledge is true. So that means you start making changes to your life and you begin doing or following the guide of that reliable source of knowledge. So step one is you got to find the reliable source of knowledge. Step two is you make the decision that you're going to trust it as being true and accurate, and you're going to rearrange your life and begin acting as if it's accurate. So what's step number three? You found the source of knowledge. You've made the decision to believe that it's true and to begin to act like it's true and live like it's true. Step number three is simply following through with that decision and actually beginning to rearrange your life. Not beginning to, but to rearrange your life and act or obey or follow what that reliable source of knowledge says. So you're going to start doing what it says to do and trying to not do the things that it says not to do. Okay? It's simple. And why would you be motivated to even do that? Because you've said, this reliable source of knowledge I can count on to take me from where I am at this point to where I want to be, which is to become the person that you know you can and should be. Now that can encompass a lot of things, and you'll have to define that. I'll have other videos on how to come up with that. But it's going to take you, this reliable source of knowledge, as your guide or your path to get you from where you are to where you want to be. That's why you now start taking action and rearranging your life to be in line with that reliable source of knowledge, because you're putting all your trust and all your hope and all your faith in that it's the secret, it's the key to getting you to where you want to be. And then after you've done that for a period of time, after you've followed and done what this reliable source of knowledge has said, and after you've rearranged your life according to how that reliable source of knowledge describes reality is and the way you should order your life to exist in this reality to get you from point A to where your point B or your destination is, then step 4 is you evaluate the results. You evaluate the outcomes of what you've been doing. And you simply ask yourself, are the results and the outcomes what I was promised by my reliable source of knowledge that they would be? And if they are, great. You can just continue on following the guide, the leading of your reliable source of knowledge to get you where you want to go, if that's what you want to continue doing. But if you say, the reliable source of knowledge I thought said A, B, and C would happen if I did this, but I'm getting D, E, and F, well, you have a few options that might be the answer to this. Number one is your reliable source of knowledge is not true. It doesn't know what it's talking about. The second option is your reliable source of knowledge that you thought was trying to help you is actually flat out lying to you. Okay? The third option might be you actually misunderstood what your reliable source of knowledge was saying. Okay? And the fourth one might be is that you only got a partial picture of what that reliable source of knowledge is saying, and so you were making assumptions of what the outcomes would be based on only having a partial picture of the whole picture of what that source of knowledge is saying about reality. So if it's one or two, it's lying or it doesn't know what it's talking about, you can just discard it and move on. If it's possibly 3 or 4, and then as in you misunderstood what it was saying, or you don't have the full picture, you got a choice to make. You can investigate more, or you can move on. The choice is simply yours. But at least you know you've taken that reliable source of knowledge and you've put it to the test. Because you can only study something for so long. You can only learn about it for so long. At some point, you have to put it to the test, just like having a hypothesis in science class and then going into the lab and testing it out. At some point, you have to take what you've learned from your source of knowledge and put it into practice and see if it's true and if it knows what it's talking about. If you have an accurate source of knowledge that accurately explains and lays out reality, then it's going to guide you from where you are to where you want to be on the correct path. But if your source of knowledge is not a true reflection of reality, you're going to run into a lot of walls that are going to cause you a lot of pain following the guide of that knowledge, and you're never going to get to your destination. Okay? So let me give you a personal example of what this might look like. That's a lot of theory. Let's break it down to what it might actually look like. So I was getting disenchanted with the direction my life was going. I was trying to live the American dream, which I thought was what I wanted, but I found out by doing that, I was just didn't have any meaning or any purpose. Now, as a Christian, okay, this is going to be based on Jesus because I'm a Christian, so that's the example that I'm using here. I had been reading the Bible through a series of circumstances during this same process, and so I began to investigate, is the Bible true? Can I trust that the Bible's true? Can I trust that the Bible's accurate? And I spent probably 2 or 3 years investigating that, researching, doing a lot of reading from both sides of the aisle of is it true, is it not true, and so forth. Anyway, at the end of that time, I came to the conclusion that yes, the Bible is true, and yes, it can be trusted, that it knows what it's talking about when it's talking about reality and describing the world and the way we should live and order our lives and so forth. That was step 1. Step 2 was I now came to the point where I had to decide, am I going to do what that reliable source of knowledge, in my case, the Bible says, more specifically what Jesus says, or am I not? I still got that decision to make, right? It's still up to me. I decided to say, I don't like where my life is going. This seems like a reliable source of knowledge that will get me to where I want to go. Now, to be honest, I didn't have a clear vision of where it was I wanted to go. But what I did know is I didn't want where I wanted to go to remain where I was. I wanted to get away from where I was. And this Bible, my reliable source of knowledge, offered me hope that it could take me to a place that sounded like where I wanted to go. And to become the person that I wanted to be, that I know I can and should be. So I moved on to step 3. And I said, okay, now I have to start rearranging my life and taking the actions based on the Bible being true. I don't get to pick and choose which things in my reliable source of knowledge that I get to do and follow and obey, and which I don't. It's an all or nothing thing, because if I only do part of what the Bible says, I'm not giving it a true test to see if it's accurate, as in an accurate description of reality. I'm just picking and choosing a little bit here and there. And the Bible all goes together, as in the whole thing is the description, the accurate description of reality. And so the only way to test this is to say, what does Jesus say? And then what does that look like in my life to live that way? And what changes do I need to make? And what things do I need to do? And so that's what we begin to do. And if the Bible is true, it says if I do that, then God promises to take care of the results of my actions. So, in my case, I was making the decision and now taking the actions to follow and do what the Bible said without regard to the consequences to myself or even the consequences to the people I care about, based on the actions I was taking by following what Jesus said. And so we began to do that. We moved to Honduras because we thought that's what we're supposed to do, to follow this Bible's accurate representation of reality. We gave away all of our household furniture, or furnishings, when we did that. We gave away our car when we did that. We have given away a lot more money than we've ever saved because we have rearranged our life around the Bible. And as we do this periodically, I will look back and say, are we getting the results? Are we getting the outcomes that Jesus promised would happen if we follow him? And I would say we have. Now I can also say that through this, my character has been transformed to be more like Jesus' character, meaning I am more naturally, easily, and routinely, without even thinking about it, doing the things that Jesus said and thinking the way that Jesus thinks than I used to. This Bible, reliable source of knowledge, is moving me down the path to where I want to be, which is becoming the person that Brad knows he can and should be. And it is all happening because it is making my character, that is the deepest part of Brad, more like Jesus. So real quickly, let's review the steps of character transformation. Step number 1 is you got to find a reliable source of knowledge. Step number 2 is you have to make the decision to rearrange your life and to do what that reliable source of knowledge says. Step number 3 is you have to actually then put into action what that reliable source of knowledge says and actually rearrange your life according to what it says. And step number 4 is, after a period of time, you evaluate the results of what you've been doing and see if they line up with the results that were predicted by your reliable source of knowledge. That's it. 4 steps. Not too hard to remember, not as easy to implement. I get that. But I think if you try that, you will be surprised at what happens to you over the period of 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. I know I've been surprised when I look back. In the middle of it, you feel like no change is happening. But when you look back at where you were and where you are today, you realize how you think, how you act is changing tremendously. My character and your character will be transformed as you do this. Hey, if you like this video, if you like the material in this, could you do me a favor? And it's not so that I can say I have a lot of subscribers, but if you will subscribe to this channel and you will like this video, and if you think it's worth anything and would be beneficial to others, then share it with people. Because when you do that, especially subscribing and liking, then YouTube will push this out so more people can see this and more people can benefit to you. Hey, my name's Brad. Hope you're having a great day and God bless.